Allahu Akbar.
Inside Syria, a bloody civil war has raged for nearly 7 years. For the most part, Israel has stayed out of the war. But how could the Jewish state respond to this crisis and to the people on the other side? They decided to be a good neighbor.
How far away is that fighting?
Half a mile.
Marco Moreno served in the Israeli military intelligence for 25 years. After the Syrian civil war began, the army assigned Moreno to come up with a response to the carnage.
In the end, we took a very unique path. The path was to offer humanitarian aid to the Syrian side, meaning food, medicine, medical treatment, and help them in their tough hour.
But asking nothing in return.
Yeah. Asking nothing in return. It's kind of thinking outside the box, and it's not something that you can find usually as a set of mind in the Israeli army.
This outside-the-box plan became the Good Neighbor Project. After several years, it's provided tons of food, fuel, and supplies to Syrians on the other side of the border. The military also brought thousands in need of medical treatment into Israel, despite the warlike relationship with the Syrian government. The goal is simple.
To gain the hearts of mine. Listen, Syrian, we are your neighbors, okay? We don't want to hurt you. We want only to love you and help you, in order to live in peace, as neighbors, good neighbors.
And as you say, that it's a game changer?
It is a game changer.
What struck me as one of the most profound dimensions of the whole story was that these were man-to-man, eyeball-to-eyeball relational equity and trust. And that struck me, and I wanted to get involved in that.
Moreno enlisted Dalton Thomas, the founder of Frontier Alliance International, to send Christian medical teams inside Syria.
And the thing is, they don't have anything over there. So they want and need everything on a medical level. The hospitals have all been bombed, the doctors have been assassinated or displaced. There isn't anyone over there.
But who would go into what's become the most dangerous place on earth?
One story that compelled me is the story of the Good Samaritan.
Emmanuel led the first team in and found his neighbors bleeding and dying.
You have everything from chronic disease, whether it's diabetes, blood pressure, and you have somebody who has his leg blown up or his gut spilling out, or every kind of trauma that you can imagine.
The conditions are abysmal.
First thing I saw was the hospital. I remember walking down the stairs and I remember smelling, because they had a lot of traumas that day, and I remember smelling the blood and then just walking in and being like, oh my goodness, what did I get myself into?
Brittany also found herself in the war zone. She came with Tanya, a surgeon, and Melanie, a translator. They all went into Syria to help those caught in the crossfire. As chief surgeon, Dr. Tanya faced procedures she never saw in civilian life.
At the moment I began the surgery, I felt like God would show me how to proceed, whether it was a C-section, a hemorrhage, amputations or traumas, like skull or vertebrae or any type of trauma.
But why go into such a dangerous place?
If anything, when I read the Bible, what I see is a God who is mighty in battle, a God who intervenes in a time of dire distress or need. So when I read that, it's easy for me to trust God, that God would protect me, that God would shelter me. And if He calls, I believe He will protect as well.
They are warriors. Warriors. How? You have two kinds of warriors. One is carrying a gun, protecting his nation, fighting whatever, like I was for 25 years. The other kind of warrior, it's a warrior with the Bible, with a true belief in his heart. In order to serve the Lord, he needs to do what he needs to do. Syria, it's the dangerous place on earth. Everything can happen in Syria, everything. And they live in bad houses without hot water, bad food, they don't have any toilet, sleeping sometimes on the ground, but they are believers. They're doing it because they love Israel, because they love Jesus, and they want to help in the name of Jesus the Muslims. This is a very honorable thing.
God put His love in me, and it was His love that compelled me to go to that place in spite of the risks.
Away from the operating room, Dr. Tanya learned how to make bread Syrian style. While they came as neighbors, they left as family.
Welcomed in almost immediately as a part of the family because there was no one else there.
How quickly I fell in love with the people and the community. They were amazing people, and so the day that we left was probably one of the hardest days of my life, just with leaving these people that I had grown to love so much.
The dynamic here is it's a threefold cord. You know, it's three ropes that have been intertwined together, and the bond is so tight. But who would have thought that Syrian, Arab, Sunni Muslims, Christian laborers, and the Israeli army, and the bond between the three is amazing. I think it in itself is a phenomenon and a miracle.
As believers, as Christians, I believe our life is not our own to start with. So I come from that perspective, is the fact that because Jesus has given his life to me, all I can do is give my life back to him and allow him to write the story of my life. So however that story is, I am pretty comfortable with that. Yeah.
They're really doing this because of the audience of one, that he sees it and it matters to him, and he's the one that's motivated this whole thing. And to me, that's the most beautiful part about it, because at the end of the day, everything comes down to the question of, is he worth it?
Indeed, the harvest is ripe, and the Lord is doing something amazing in the Middle East, making a way where there is no way for his message, for the gospel.